I feel the Spirit moving in me. I feel the Spirit moving in me.
Well, our good friend John was having a difficult time getting a job. But he finally got an interview. And he got in the interviewer's office and he said, "Oh, I am a great worker. You need to have me working for your corporation." And the interviewer said, "In this job, John, we need somebody who is responsible." And John says, "I'm the one you want. At my last job, they said every time something went wrong, I was responsible." Somehow I don't think he got the job. So, are you responsible for healing yourself and contributing to the healing of the world? That's kind of what I think the purpose of life is, isn't it? To be here on this plane, to study these spiritual principles and enact them in our lives so that we can be a healing force in the world. You know, Jesus said, "You are the light of the world." And to me, that light is truth. That light is power. That light is wisdom. And that light is what we are here to express. And the journey to wholeness begins when we are willing to take responsibility for our part in the healing process. Have you ever noticed how much this journey is about healing? One of the things that really grabbed me and attracted me to Unity back in the early 1990s was this idea of responsibility. Unlike other spiritual paths that I experienced, this one calls us forward, doesn't it? I mean, this isn't just about believing in something outside of us that is going to transform us. These teachings that we practice call upon us to be responsible for our own spiritual life, to be responsible for facing the challenges in our lives and changing our thinking, yes? And we know that changing our thinking does what? Changes our life, doesn't it? In metaphysical theory, the origin of disease is in the mind. All circumstances in our lives are reflections of our beliefs, our thoughts, and our emotions. Wow. As we realize on this journey that our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, when we take responsibility for them, we realize that these thoughts, feelings, and beliefs can either empower us or they can cause us suffering. And we want to embrace the ones that empower us and let go of the things that make us suffer, right? Isn't that, it's the kind of the spiritual journey, isn't it? To realize, well, this doesn't make me feel good. What can I do to bring power to the illusions in my life that are sucking my energy because I'm believing in something that isn't true, that isn't powerful? When I first came into Unity back in 1990, this was a really a statement that was going around that felt kind of weird to me. When somebody was having a problem, people would say, "What is it in your consciousness that has caused this to happen?" And we would ask ourselves, what is it in my consciousness that has caused this uncomfortable event to happen in my life? And I got to be with that. And I realized there is power in that, right? As long as I'm doing well and I'm happy and I'm excited and I'm prosperous, I can say, "Oh yeah, that's great. Yes, what I'm doing, my principles are working." But what if they're not so well? What if I'm not feeling well? then this idea that I created my reality doesn't feel so good, does it? It can often lead to guilt, yeah? And this is not a path of guilt. So I came to realize that sometimes this statement is true, and sometimes this statement is not true. So I like to think that in some way, this statement is metaphysical malpractice, right? And if I say to somebody, oh, I'm sorry you're hurting, but what it is in your consciousness that's making you feel that way, right? Oh, for God's sakes, who am I to say that it's in their consciousness? But I think the Buddha talks about this in a way that makes it even more understandable in a sermon that he gave titled The Simile of the Snake. And Buddha said that if you have a snake and you grab the snake by the tail, what can happen? It can bite you, yeah? But if you have a little bit of wisdom and you grab the snake behind the head, then you have power over the snake and it can't bite you. So in the same way, this spiritual principle, and there are others, are true when we hold on to them sort of with our wisdom and hold them in the right way. Do you see where I'm going? Nobody. All right, let's back it all up. All right, well, I'll give you a little bit of time for this to sink in. How many times do we have to do this? So, do we create all of the circumstances in our lives? I think you're right. Yes, yes and no. Do we cause our own suffering? Because we know that we create our suffering by the way we interpret the events that are happening in our lives. So, a lot of people would say that we create all of our suffering and we totally create our lives, which makes me think, well, what about the infant that is born with handicaps or something? Did that infant cause that? Probably not. So what caused the cause? Let's go back even further. If we really want to get into some metaphysical malpractice, have you ever said to yourself, oh, the cause of my illness is anger. Oh, so what caused the anger? Well, the anger came from the fact that I was abused as a child. Oh, so what caused the abuse? Well, the abuse was caused by the fact that in another lifetime I was angrier and abused, and we kind of think that it kind of comes forward, right? And we can get so caught up in trying to analyze why things are happening instead of just accepting what they are. I like to call this paralysis by analysis, right? Because so we can get into trying to figure every little thing out. Why am I this way? Why am I hurting? What can I do about it? And I think that's the question that really has the weight. Jesus really emphasized this point to his disciples. When his disciples were out walking around and they came upon a man that had been blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, the man or his parents? In a sense, they're asking him, what was it in this man's consciousness that brought on this blindness? Right? What was he thinking? What did he do? And Jesus wisely said, it is not that this man sinned or his parents, but that the works of God might be manifest in him. So, we're here to express the conditions of our lives, and they are exactly what we need. We are here to express God, and the conditions of our lives are exactly what we need for transformation. So, however and whatever shows up in our lives is the perfect experience for us to have to transform ourselves in consciousness, regardless of why it happened. So we start focusing on the why, and we miss the whole point, instead of dealing with what can we deal with right now to move ourselves into a higher state of consciousness. Do you see the difference? Perhaps we should change the question from what caused this to what am I willing to do with the life experience that I've been given? Right? So, okay, so regardless how this showed up, regardless of how I'm sick or how I'm having difficulty in my life, rather than trying to figure out why I got that way, let's deal with what I have. How can I best show up as my powerful self in the midst of what's happening in my life? Stephen Levine said, a Buddhist teacher said, we are not so much responsible for our illnesses as we are responsible to our illnesses. You see the difference? It's like, and rather than being angry at our illness, rather than being angry at the difficult situations in our life, if we can just say, this is what it is. It is what it is. I can deal with what it is. I can handle this. I can let Spirit move through me to guide me as to what are the best ways for me to handle this situation. The question is not so much what to do with our suffering, but it's to what do we do with it? How can we deal with it? How can we move with it and flow with it in spite of it? So what is your responsibility in your life, in the difficult situations in your life? The root word for responsibility is response. It's our ability to respond. So we're looking at our lives and say, okay, this is what it is. How am I going to respond to what is happening? So what is our responsibility? We are responsible for our response to any experience, event, or condition. You ever notice that? It's your responsibility, it's our responsibility to show up. I like to think to show up, be present, and respond in love. And if we can do that with everything that happens in our lives, we are taking responsibility to show up, be present, and respond in love. What is our responsibility? Our response to any situation is based upon our perception of it. So we get to determine the value of every situation. You ever say, damn, this makes me mad? Ever say that? No, probably not. This is a pretty evolved group, I know. But what if you have the ability to choose not to be upset? Because it's just an event. It's just something somebody said. It's just something somebody did. It's just something that you did. And we put all this energy on it as if this neutral event had some huge power that's controlling our lives. What if it just is? And that's it. Can you see how much more you can be present to it? If we don't put so much energy on the events in our lives. So what is our responsibility? We are responsible for the meaning that we give to each experience. Woo, isn't that great? Yes! Because we kind of go through life doing that, don't we? Something happens and we're constantly, you get that little voice in your head going, this is good, this is bad, I don't like this person, right? What if we just through life and just like, this is what it is. I don't have to judge everybody. I don't have to be the boss. I don't have to be the one who knows everything. The one who, slams the hammer down and says, this is the way it is. What if we just accept this is what it is? Doesn't mean we don't take responsibility for doing something if we're called to do it, but we don't have to be the judge of everything. Well, I missed the last sentence here. We create the meaning of everything we experience. So there's this guy that went to a psychologist, and he's in the psychologist's office, and the psychologist is showing him these ink blots, right? And the man's looking at the ink blots, and the psychologist says, what did they all mean to you? And he says, well, they're all about sex. And every one of them? And the man says yes, and he describes how each one of them is about sex to him. And then the psychologist says, I think you're obsessed with sex. And the man says, me? You're the one showing me all these dirty pictures. True wholeness occurs only when we are willing to use our experience of suffering as an opportunity to reevaluate our deepest beliefs and ultimately our lives themselves. Wow, that's kind of in a nutshell, for me, what spirituality is about, yeah? To look at our lives and to see, this makes me be uncomfortable. So what is it about this uncomfortableness that's about me? Rather than placing judgment on it and saying that something out here is doing something to me, what if I say, wow, it's my responsibility to interpret that in a way, or to change my thinking, my being, in a way that I can live a happier life, that I can move out of this place of suffering. Transformation happens only when we are willing to be changed. Don't you hate that part? But the truth of it is, that's why we're here, isn't it? Because we recognize that I want to change my life. I want to be the most powerful person that I can be, don't you? Yeah. I want to contribute to this life that I have and to this world in a way that helps to transform people's lives. And I want to be happy in the meantime. Don't you? So this path that we're on is about changing the way we think, the way we believe, and the way we feel. Oh, great. Okay, this is the best part right here. So we're going to play a game, yeah? Well, in fact, you're already playing this game, and I'm calling it the creator game. And you are creators in your own life. I like to think that this life that we're living, that you're living, is like a palette, right? We've got a painter's palette that we get to play in and with every day. I know I like to get up in the morning and think, what am I going to paint today? What am I going to create today? What kind of fun am I going to have today? How am I going to be able to, what can I think or say that's going to transform my life or somebody else's life today? And the same is true for all of us. Whether you're a painter or you work with clay or you like to build stuff, we are here to be creators, and you are a creator. And you are playing this creator game, which I made up. I'm a creator. I created this game. And so how do we play this creator game? Well, there's a couple rules. Don't you hate that? There's always rules in a game. And the first rules are there's no blame. So in order to play the creator game and to move forward, you can't blame anybody for anything. You can't say it's his fault, their fault, my fault. Just stop blaming everybody. And again, it's about accepting what is. And then the other thing you can't do is no negative judgment. Isn't this fun? Are you excited? Huh? Can't wait to leave here and go out and play this game, can you? Because if you want to create the highest level, then, it's okay to have positive judgments and say, this is great, that's wonderful, this person is beautiful, you're lovely, and I appreciate you so much. But that negative stuff, if we're going to have a good experience of playing this game and have a productive life, then there's no negative judgment. So how you can breathe. Holding your breath isn't going to do any good. It's not going to make this slide go away any faster. Let's breathe into that. Imagine what that feels like. Imagine how the energy feels not to judge anything negatively. Because I talked about this a little bit last week. Judgment, negative judgment, positive judgment too, but negative judgment more so affects our energy and the situation we are in, you are in, faster than any other universal law. Because as soon as we judge something negatively, it shuts down part of us. It shuts down our heart. It affects anybody who's around. There's like a zing that goes into the conversation. You ever notice? You don't want to notice it. But, there is something that happens as soon as we judge something negative that affects us, it affects other people, and it affects the world. I don't want to make you feel guilty, but look where we are in the world. And it's this kind of work that we get to do to transform this world. To transform the consciousness, because when we change our consciousness, our world is going to change. Our leaders are going to change. God bless them all. And this is the work we are here to do. I could get off on a little political rant, but I don't think I will. No judgment, right? Dang, I hate that when I have to live what I'm teaching. Right, here you go. See how fast judgment acts? Right in this second. Okay, there's another little rule that goes along with this. Oh, okay, here's the secret to winning. Let go of notions that things are either bad or good, and let go of notions that things are either right or wrong. Take a breath. Imagine that. Imagine what that feels like to go through your day with knowing that nothing is good or bad. It just is. Nothing's right or wrong. It just is. Feel the difference? You can feel it, can't you? Because your spirit knows this. Your soul knows this. That part of you that's connected to all life knows this. Okay, here's the third rule in the creator game, and that is to let go of the victim attitude. And I know probably none of you ever experienced that. Woe is me, and why is this happening to me? Oh my God, here we go again. Here they come, And just to let go of that. Because as soon as we play the victim, again, our heart shuts down. Our connection to spirit shuts down. Because spirit says, spirit doesn't say, but our ability to connect with spirit shuts down. Because we're looking at life through a limited perspective that keeps truth out. So don't play victim. There is no power in being a victim. Only weakness and doubt and blame. Accept responsibility to move through the things that hurts, the suffering, and move out of that suffering by embracing the truth. So how do you win the creator game? Are you still wanting to play? I feel like, here we are, we're at my house and we're getting ready to play a game, and I'm telling you all the rules, and everybody's like, I don't think I want to play this game all of a sudden. Ever have that happen? If you come to my house, you will, because it'll take me so long to explain the game that by the time you get it, it'll be gone. Am I playing the victim there? What am I doing? Negative judgment. Forget all that. Take that out of the tape, will you? All right. Okay, so assume that you are 100% responsible for everything you experience, both your reactions and the events and the conditions themselves. Sounds like a big deal, but it's really not. Because this is what your soul wants to do. This is what the Spirit within you says, that you are powerful. You have the ability to be so attuned to Spirit that you can be present, that you take responsibility for everything you think, say, and do. And what's fun about it, of course, just like it did with me, as soon as you get into judgment or something, you catch yourself. Isn't that great? Stephen Levine said, acceptance is magic. Genuine acceptance has a mysterious power that moves us in the direction of our wholeness. It's all in our hands. Everything is in our hands. Reminds me of a story. There was a monk who lived in the Himalayas, and he was an incredible, wise monk. And people would come to see him from all over. And he was wise because he could answer every question perfectly. And people would come to hear his truth, to be inspired. And some people even came to try and trick him. Like a young boy, Joseph here, who came from the village. And Joseph came before the monk. And he said to the monk, he said, "Oh, great monk," as he's holding his hands behind his back, "I'm holding a bird behind me. Is the bird I'm holding alive or dead?" The great monk closes his eyes. He's like, what is the truth? And the bird is actually alive. If the great monk responded dead, the lad would produce the living bird and prove him wrong. If the monk responded, he's alive, then the lad would wring the bird's neck and produce a dead bird. So the boy stood with a smug smile on his face, waiting for the great sage to respond. The wise man closed his eyes for a few seconds. And then with a charitable smile, he looked at the young boy and he opened his eyes and he replied, "Son, the answer to that question is in your hands." So the answer is in your hands. The answer is in our hands. So when we play the creator game, we get to know that we have the responsibility to be creators and not to judge, not to see things as good or bad. Just to recognize that life is what it is. Our work is to pay attention to the moment, to be present, to create, to open our hearts, to respond with love, and to be present for all life, And not to be over analytical and try and determine why things happen, but rather to look and say, this is what I have. What am I going to do with what I have? Acceptance creates wholeness. Acceptance is magic. Genuine acceptance has a mysterious power that moves us in the direction of wholeness. When we are able to accept everything as it is, it allows us to be free, to be present, to be love. You are the author of your life. Your goal is not to figure things out, but take responsibility. And you will be present, be powerful, be loving. And as Jesus said, you will be the light of the world because that is who you are. Take responsibility. It is my responsibility to express my divine self in everything I think, feel, say, and do. I invite you to close your eyes. Take a deep breath, breathing in. Breathing, flowing. Taking from these words that which serves you. Breathing in and relaxing into this moment. Breathing into the light that you are. Imagine that you are a creator. And imagine that you can look at your hands and realize that you have this amazing ability, this awesome ability to create. Spirit is giving you this life. This world, the earth, is here for you. What will you create? How will you be? Breathing in. It is my responsibility to express my divine self in everything. Listen. Breathing in and breathing out. Gently allowing your awareness to return to this moment. Becoming aware of the light in this room, the light that you are, the light of beautiful Maui. How awesome to be alive.
Where I live, there are rays